Let's talk about inferiority and superiority complexes versus the community feeling that is discussed in the Courage to be Disliked, or just in generally Alfred Adler's individual psychology. So I've been pondering and thinking about specifically those parts of the Courage to be Disliked and Alfred Adler's theory. I've been listening to his work on neuroticism, which is amazing. And so that's been kind of going into my understanding and thinking about that concept that is introduced in that book. And so, I'm trying to think it through and actually find practical application in my life on that and what it looks like. So if you haven't read the book, the inferiority and superiority complex, are both basically existing at the same time. That basically you have like a person who's like treating everybody like it's a vertical relationship, and that you're having to compete with other people, and then you're constantly either feeling inferior or superior because you're in competition. So the ego doesn't stay in one too long. So, you feel like someone's ahead of you, then you feel inferior, and then you're going to flip, and then you find a way to feel superior, to kind of even that out. And you just kind of go back and forth, inferior, superior. And that's the way like most people live, versus being able to live in what is called the community feeling, and love. And that's like a place of like cooperation and seeing people as comrades. We're all on a horizontal playing field. And so we're all walking in one direction. Yes, some people might be ahead of you or behind you, but that doesn't really mean anything because there's no valleys or mountains. And you're going to get there anyway because you're walking there and everyone's on the same even playing ground. And so that's kind of the general ideal of the two. So my husband has been working on playing with like different dichotomies and stuff to help identify instincts in us that kind of play out and can, we have these instincts, and if they're immature, they kind of act out. And as we grow up, we kind of mature these instincts and we become aware of them in ourselves and others. And it's been a very interesting model that he's making. It's still at like the very early stages, so we'll see where it ends up. But I'll give kind of a couple examples of how he's doing that with the instincts in relation to this, because I find the combination to be really useful in trying to figure out how to really live and apply the ideals and the Courage to be Disliked. So lately I've had a few incidences where I really feel like I was like a bit more feeling like the community feeling versus being stuck in that inferior superior complex. And I have to admit, once you kind of get that feeling of it, it's kind of addictive, and I really want to get into it where I feel it more in my life as soon as possible. So it's one of the reasons why I've been really pondering on it. So most people live in the sense of inferior superiority. So say, you have this vertical relationship, you feel this person's front ahead of you, and then you're competing with them and you just feel inferior, and then eventually it'll flip and you'll be like, and this is how I'm better and all this, and then until you get humbled and you go back to inferior, back and forwards, back and forwards. And so it's just this constant flipping spiral that doesn't really lead in anywhere. And so with the ideal of instincts is the ideal that within that, on what's feeling inferior and superior, is related to base instincts that all people have. So for example, one of the pairings that is currently in the works, so it's probably going to change, but it gives the general ideal, is two instincts that kind of connect. And then we kind of respond to them by like, if I can't have one, then at least I can have the other, and kind of go back and forwards, when the healthy state is realizing you can meet the needs of both. So for example, winning or being successful, and love or like kindness and loyalty. So you have these instincts in us. Like we have an instinct that we want to be successful. We have an instinct that we want to be loyal and loving. And so so you might have situations where you feel like you can't get one and then you flip on the other. And it's like, kind of goes in that to inferior superiority. So using this example, let's say you're a person who doesn't feel confident that they can actually win, that they can actually be successful. So they'll be like, fine, since I can't be successful, I'm going to love, which often looks like people pleasing. So I'm going to please everybody, and I'm going to do what I need to do, everything on them, and then they're going to love me and they're going to be loyal to me, and then that's going to make up for the lack of actually being successful. And so you're feeling inferior about succeeding, and then you're feeling sort of like, I see, I take care of the people in my life, I'm so loving, and then that's where you feel superior. And then of course, every once in a while that flips, and then you get mad because people aren't appreciating you, and then you're like, well, then fine, I'm going to do it myself, and I'll just like do everything better. And then you get kind of like into that like negatively, and then vice versa, you're like, people don't like me or respect me, so I'm just going to keep winning. I'm going to like climb the ladder, and I'm going to get so successful, people are going to have to love and respect me, or at least they're going to have to look at me being above them. And then of course, every once in a while that flips, and you feel that lack of connection with people. So those are more common ones there, to kind of just like show that illustration of how we have these instincts in us that are playing with the inferior, superior, constant flipping. Now, what that would look to actually be able to meet the needs of both and actually go into that sense of community filling. So you can be successful and you can be loyal and kind to other people. So I'll use in a personal example here that I'm kind of showing where that community filling is. So I'm a group fitness instructor, and I create my own programming and exercises and stuff. And some of it I'm pretty good at. And there's other things that I'm not as good at, such as I'm just not like a peppy party kind of person. So my classes tend to have a little bit of lower energy or whatever, because I'm just not that pump it up kind of party person. But the actual exercises and things there are like really solid. So those are the things there. So I kind of have the tendency, well, I'm going to at least design my classes more, even if I can't necessarily be charismatic as what people want and things like that. So, and then that flips or whatever is kind of my inferior superiority flipping. So moving on to community filling though, because of that, I do have things where other people would like to know what are some of my exercises I use and how I deal with that people actually like those things. So if I would stay in the inferior superiority place and like kept people there, they would be my enemies, like they'd be my competition. It'd be like, no, I'm going to keep that to myself. Why would I share what people like about my, classes and let you do that if you're going to, take it from me or whatever? And then they're like that competitive. So the community feeling though, like when I'm there or whatever, I'm like, oh no, here you go. I'll teach you how to do that. Here's how you do these sets of exercises. This is some things that they like that you can learn to play with and things like that. And that works really nicely because, I like personal growth, and I'm constantly learning new exercising things and applying it. So I know, for one thing, what I'm showing and applying, I'm going to know more about and be able to do more 6 months and a year from now. So it's okay if they are using it, and if they're using it more, it's more incentive for me to continue to grow and learn and do that. And then it also builds that community feeling because I'm not competing. I'm sharing and, developing better connections with my coworkers. And also doing that, I'm also more open to learning from my coworkers, and then I'm adapting things to that they're able to do to lift the energy of their class. So it's a win-win situation where we can all become a community that are helping people rather than being competitive. And that's just coming from me, not doing that flipping and speaking to those instincts and being just like, you know what? I can be successful and loyal and loving to people rather than letting one versus the other take over and then make me stingy in one or the other. So that is an example of something I've been contemplating with on my own instincts. I have this instinct to fit in and be liked, and then this instinct to actually be successful, and that I can meet the needs of both of those and make a horizontal playing field and not get caught up in competition with other people or make people into enemies or competitors when we're just all walking and doing life together. So there's some of my practical application of me trying to think and apply out of that book. If you read that book and have any of your own experiences or stories on how you're applying it, please feel free to comment in the comments. I would love to hear other people's stories. The more we share, the more faster we grow together. And that is what I'm kind of hoping to do in this community, is just to have somehow build a community, that exchanging of ideals of people who are actually trying to apply and live these things and going towards, our guiding North Stars and stuff. So thank you for watching this video. Please check out the rest of my integrate thoughts, like, subscribe, and all of that, and I'll see you in another video.